right here in the middle of the pain and penitence represented by the first two purple candles on our Advent wreath, we lit a pink colored candle, and we call this candle joy. Now, we Americans are not all that good at metaphors and symbolic things. We like the cold, hard facts. Our tastes run more toward technology than art. So let's all be sure we understand what's going on with our Advent wreath today. You might say this wreath is like our lives, chock full of all sorts of human experiences, joys and sorrows, gains and losses, hopes and fears. And the wreath is a complete circle because you see, life is never lived in part, but always in whole. Once we were little children, we could not even fathom the end of life. But once you hit 40, or 50, or 60, or more, once we lived almost completely in our dreams of what someday we might become, what we might do. But as life goes on, dreams pass away. Some come to fruition, some do not. And sometimes we often find ourselves with less and less to dream about, and more to simply try and remember. You know what I'm talking about? Lately, I've been experiencing something pretty strange, which for me I know is relative. I'll be driving along, listening to the oldies on the radio, and a song will be played that almost immediately transports me back to a particular moment in my teenage years. Taking my date out to watch the submarine races on the South Jetty in Galveston. Sitting on David Allnut's front porch, trying to figure out how we can make a firecracker big enough so we can set it off by the front door of a girl named Dolores so that she will notice David, but without her father calling the police. Of course, we went to proms, high school football games, and I hung out with my buddies at our favorite spot at 57th and Seawall in Galveston. I recall the very feelings, sights, and sounds of those long ago moments. It's almost like I am right there again. But of course I'm not. And when the song is over, I have this kind of melancholy feeling because I know I will never ever get that moment back again. It's gone forever. Do you see life differently today than back when you were a kid? Life is not any individual isolated moment, but a whole series of moments that stretch across the width, breadth, and height of our lives. Our life is like the circle of this wreath. And the more we move around it, the more we become aware of the frailty of our humanity. But you and I have been given a great gift, and that is the gift of Jesus Christ. And even though the circle of life might expose the full extent of our weakness, sin, and sorrow, God has promised us a Savior. So in the face of all that we know about ourselves, we light candles. One of my colleagues describes how important candles are as she tells about her childhood journey with her family every year to Grandma's house on Christmas Eve. Every year the family would always attend their Christmas Eve service at their church at 7 o'clock, and then they would all pile into their all-American station wagon complete with the wood grain panels on the side, and they made the trip to Grandmother's house. Grandmother lived pretty good ways away, and if the weather was bad, the family wouldn't get there till well after midnight. But my colleague says no matter how stormy or late it was, when they came around that last curve in the road, they would see the candle. Just one old electric candle glowing in the frost-covered living room window. This was a sign that Grandmother was waiting for them to arrive. So in the midst of the cold night of our diseases, our problems, and our distressing events, we light a candle of hope. In the face of war, conflict, and estranged relationships, we light a candle of peace. And these two candles burn brightly before us today in our Advent wreath that represents the circle of our life. They are signs that we, like that grandmother, are waiting for Jesus to come and transform our pain and sin into hope and peace. And then today we light the candle of joy. You know, it takes a great deal of faith to light this joy candle. Isaiah had that kind of faith when he wrote the words we heard in our first scripture reading. The nation was defeated, the people were in slavery. Israel was in exile in Babylon. And Isaiah describes the state of his and Israel's life by painting a picture of a burning, colorless, lifeless desert. And I think Isaiah was spot on in using this description because for many of us, life often becomes like a desert. Dried out, parched, wilting away under the scorching sun. I know that my life has gone through some pretty desert-like times. How about you? Isaiah was describing the human condition, not just Israel's condition. And so how does Isaiah respond to this desert time of life? By complaining? No. By being bitter? No. By giving in to despair? No way. Isaiah responds to his desert by lighting a candle, by creating a dream about joy. Listen again. The wilderness and dry land shall be glad. The desert shall rejoice and blossom. Like the crocus, it shall blossom abundantly and rejoice with joy and singing. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, the ears of the deaf unstopped. The lame shall leap like a deer, the tongue of the speechless sing for joy. Water shall break forth in the wilderness, streams in the desert. The burning sand shall become a pool, and the thirsty ground springs of water. When life was at its lowest possible point, Isaiah lit a candle. He dreamed a dream of joy. And it was not a joy based on wishful thinking, positive thinking, or delusional thinking. It was not a dream about Israel becoming strong again or about Isaiah being smart enough to be able to turn this whole thing around. No, there was nothing anyone could do to make life better for either Isaiah or Israel. This dream was about something else. Actually, this dream was about someone else. This was a candle glowing in a window about the expectation of a Savior's arrival. Isaiah created a picture in his heart and mind about the joy that will dawn when the Savior comes. Years later, when John the Baptist was in prison, he sent messengers out to Jesus. Are you the one Isaiah was talking about? Are you the fulfillment of Isaiah 35? And Jesus says, go and tell John this. The blind are seeing, the lame are walking, lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the poor have the good news preached to them. In other words, Jesus said, go tell John that joy is breaking out all over. So I'm wondering if you'll light a candle of joy in your life today. I know that some of you are going through some really hard times right now, even with the brightness of this holiday season upon us. Some of us are facing dark times, lonely times, fearful times, tearful times. And many of us have people in our lives that we love very much, whose joy has been taken away in one way or another. So I'm wondering if you'll light a candle of joy today for yourself, for those you love. And it's not that hard to do, but it does take a lot of faith. You see, lighting this candle of joy in your life means to begin the discipline of painting a new picture in life, in all its dimensions through the filter of joy. I read not too long ago about a man who learned that his younger sister had been diagnosed with terminal cancer. He and the rest of his family was absolutely devastated. There would be chemotherapy and radiation, not for a cure, just to extend life and maybe have a little bit better quality of life. And that as his sister and the rest of the family began that that long, arduous process, he says they became a family preoccupied by the cancer, by the treatment, and most especially, the horrible prognosis. There was this sort of collective depression that settled on the whole family. One holiday weekend, they all got together. Someone brought up an old memory. Nothing special, just a remembrance of some silly thing that had happened years ago. And when it was told, everybody laughed. Moments later, someone else told another story, then another and another. Before long, the house was full of laughter. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? And we cleaned out our mom's house. As a family went their separate ways that evening, the sister hugged her brother and all the others, and she said, "This has been such a wonderful day. Thank you so much." On his long drive home, this brother thought about his sister's words. And in his mind, he saw her smile. He remembered the sound of her laughter, remembered the brightness in her eyes as they had shared all these stories. And he thought to himself, I wish there was some way I could give her that same gift every day. And then he remembered how all her days would now be filled with a treatment regimen that would absolutely empty her. But he came up with an idea. When he got home, he sat down at his computer and he began to write. He reached back into his memory, pulled out moments that he and his sister had shared back when they were kids. And as he wrote, he put in as much detail as he could remember. And every once in a while, he would insert the question, what can you add to this? Every day he sat and wrote. Every day he mailed another letter. Every day she took these letters with her to her oncology appointment. And every day she wrote back. And every time they got together, they talked about all the things that they had written, and they laughed for hours at a time. About a year and a half later, the end of his sister's life drew near. As he sat by her bedside, she reached out and took his hand and said, "You know, these last 18 months have been some of the best months of my life. We found so much joy in our lives once we took the time to look for it. And you know, I'm sort of looking forward to hearing more of these stories from Mom and Dad when I get to heaven." This man says that the most beautiful miracle he has ever witnessed was the miracle of the joy his sister found in the very face of illness and death. And he insists that this joy gave her strength and resolve to squeeze every drop of goodness out of all the days she had left and to face her future with confidence and joy. So, will you light this candle of joy today? Will you light it for yourself? Will you light it for someone you love? It's sort of like a grandmother lighting a candle in the living room window, looking forward to the joy when her family arrives. And the promise that we're all given is this: we have a Savior seeking to come into our lives with joy. What is the joy you're looking for today? Can you visualize it? Can you imagine what it would be like on the day when your prodigal son or daughter comes home? Can you fathom the joy the day when you see your deceased mother or father? When you discover that even the person you thought was lost has been found by the grace of God? Can you feel the wonder of the moment when Israelis and Palestinians will actually sit down and break bread together at table? Can you perceive the day when your old, worn-out body is renewed by the power of the Holy Spirit, and you're stronger, more vital, more alive than you have ever been before? Jesus comes to bring you joy. So light this candle. Put it in the window of your life. And then look for joy, work for joy, dream about joy, and share your joy. You see, my friends, joy to the world. Our Lord is come. Amen.